Hello, League City. I'm Sarah Greer Osborne, the spokesperson and communications director for the City of League City. Joined today by council candidate, position 5, Fred Rogers. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I feel funny saying that, but I know you've probably heard that all your life, right?
I love it.
We like to say we have two celebrities running, Fred Rogers and Rachel McAdams, because Rachel McAdams is a famous actress. So it makes it fun. Thank you for joining us today. You are our last interview, right?
Yes.
Which might be a strategy there. You picked to go last.
Yes,
So yeah,
I chose that. I want to be the last person on everybody's mind going into November the 3rd.
Well, we gave all 7 candidates who are running for council position 4 and 5 an opportunity to spend a half hour with me kind of answering questions to let people get to know you. 2 of the candidates have selected not to do those interviews. They're running against you,
Yes.
Wes Chorn and Justin Hicks. They chose not to do the interview and to go to the polls instead, and that is their choice. But we are here today, and so we're going to chat. We're going to chat for about 25 minutes, and then you get what we like to call the rapid fire questions. And the challenge is Rachel McAdams went through every single one. She was
on it.
You can do one or you can do all of them. But let's start off real simply. And also we want to let folks know I'm wearing a mask because I can talk real loud and hopefully you can hear me. But we really want folks to be able to hear you and see you, and so you're not wearing a mask. So, but we're socially distanced, so we're good.
Great.
We're good. So let's start off just basic background. How did you get to League City? How long have you lived here? Family?
Sure. So my name is Frederick Rogers. I'm a candidate for position 5 here at League City Council. My career I'm a military person. Joined the military at 18 years old.
Which branch?
Yes, United States Navy. Joined the United
right.
States Navy at 18 years old. When I joined the military, a couple of first things. It was the first time I ever flew on a plane, and I flew out to San Diego, California. That's where I actually had boot camp in San Diego. And then upon graduating from boot camp, I went into service school out there, which at the time it was radioman school, but in 2020 it would be considered IT school.
Yeah.
Same thing. So working on computers, large projects, satellite communications, things of that nature. So that's kind of what my military background in my first 9 years. So I had a wide variety of duty stations, starting out in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Mayport, Florida area, and then leaving there, going over to Keflavik, Iceland.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it was great. Lived out in Keflavik, Iceland for a total of 4 years.
Okay, so this little chill in the air is nothing to you.
No. You just gotta put on some layers. You gotta put on some layers and get out there. One of the beautiful things that I can remember about Keflavik, Iceland is the 6 months of daylight and the 6 months of nightfall.
Wow.
So basically, literally in the summertime, your kid can be outside 2 o'clock in the morning, riding down the slopes on the hills at 2 o'clock in the morning. So then after that, from Iceland, I left military service and I moved back to Georgia, and I started businesses. I got into business for myself, had non-emergency medical transport, limousine service, and taxi cabs. We did that for about 3 years. So that would take me from 97 into 2001. And then we all know what happened in 2001, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So when 9/11 happened, I got recalled to active duty service. I was actually still in the ready reserve. So when I say recall, that means that it wasn't like I was just totally out and they just said, come back. I was a reserved weekend driller, and then the needs of the Navy, the needs of the country took precedence. So I wound up selling my business and getting back on active duty. So, and then from that time, I remained on active duty up until 30 years. So just had a lot of duty stations. And throughout the course of my entire enlistment, I had the good fortune of living in about 32 states in 6 countries. So I've seen a lot. And in terms of how did I get to League City?
So all of that. How did you end up here in League City?
So in 2016, my wife at the time, she was actually stationed down in Pensacola, Florida. She was teaching school out there for the Navy, and I was actually in Chicago. So we was living that geographical.
Oh, that commute kind of, yeah.
But fortunately for the Navy, they put us so that we can be co-located on our way out of the Navy. So what I came here to do, I came here to be in charge of recruiting for the state of Texas and Louisiana. So I was a chief recruiter for that area, which covers a lot of real estate, 44,000 square miles.
Yeah.
That's what they have wrote. And my wife was in charge of. She taught STEM across 7 states. So she would go into the high schools and teach kids about underwater robotics, STEM, sea perch, buoyancy, and those things. So that's how we was able to bring our family together. My wife being from this area, so she actually fell in love with this. Well, she was already in love with it. I had to fall in love.
Where's she from? Kind of
she's originally from the Texas City area.
Texas City area, okay.
So we got here, and it was making our transition out of the military. My thoughts was we was going to probably live out in Georgia somewhere, but
her thoughts were somewhere else.
But her thoughts, her ideas, it was stronger than mine. So we wind up settling down here. So 2016 is when we showed up here in League City, and over the time, working up in the city, off of Richmond and Westheimer, that's why I had to travel every day. I usually leave out of League City about 4:35.
And is that for recruitment still?
Yes. So I did that all the way up until our retirement, which was January of 2020. That was the ceremony portion of our retirement, but I actually didn't get off active duty to April 1st of 2020.
Okay, so you've only been retired for a couple months.
Yes.
Okay, wow. And then you've thrown your hat in that couple of months to run for council.
Yes.
So why do you that couple months wasn't enough? So
well, I think I was kind of having leadership withdrawal. So just being out of the military for that brief amount of time, going from leading thousands of people, running 47 recruiting stations, 1,000 employees, to just one day, April 1st, it was like, stop. You have nobody to lead. The only thing I really had between me and leadership was just trying to make sure that I had the best looking grass in the neighborhood. So that was my competition factor. And so I started driving everybody crazy around the house. Me and my wife both are really two smart people, type A personalities. So somebody got to go somewhere every day.
Now, do you have any kids, or you empty nesters?
Yes, I have two older sons. They're men, and I have a little 6-year-old at home. Her name is Madison. So. And she's a Par Patriot, so shout out to all the Par Patriots out there. So she's a Par Patriot, and so she's homeschooled, and so a combination of a whole bunch of stuff started happening. But what I did was how I really kind of took interest into the politics. For all of my life, I've been in public service. So when I actually retired, I've always paid attention to League City, but I actually worked in Houston. Mm-hmm. So this was kind of a place to come home, have a good sandwich, at the local shops.
That's the bulk of our League City residents, frankly, is they commute in Houston. They commute to Houston. 67% do that.
Yes, and so I wanted to learn a little bit more about the city in which I live. And in doing so, the first place, and this is probably a plug for I-45, so I went straight directly to some of their information, and then I went to the city websites. And then so I got in a discussion about COVID-19 with some people, just do a little chat. And at the time, it was about, everybody, COVID-19 was a big surprise to everybody. We didn't know exactly what we do or how to approach it. So I got into some discussions. Long story short in that, a few people reached out to me asking me who I was and why did I have such intrusive kind of questions, etc. So, and I answered those questions. The thing is that with the COVID-19, everybody was kind of taken back. It was a big deal. So what I wanted to know is that as we tried to get at these issues, did we have real pragmatic solutions? Was it things that we can actually implement and scale? And at the same time, what is the result? What are we going to be trying to achieve? So in that discussion, people started asking me questions. And one of the questions came from Mayor Pro Tem Todd Kinsey.
Okay.
So he asked me the 10,000 feet questions like, hey, why are you not participating in government or whatever? So my answer was pretty fast. It was like, no. And but over time, from that question, because I came from a structured environment, and when I found out what Todd Kinsey's role was in this community, I kind of viewed it as if one of my commanders walked in and asked me as a Master Chief Petty Officer to look at something and come back with some solutions. So I kind of look at the mayor, the council, and the department heads. I believe if they reach out to citizens saying that we need some of your ideas and we need your participation, I don't think that we have an opportunity, if the time permit, that we say no to that. I think we have an obligation. So that leads me to being, whether you're a resident or you're a citizen. Residents are people that live here, they pay taxes here, and we need those people. But citizens are the folks that are willing to step outside of themselves, expose themselves in a lot of cases, and get in the arena and actually get out there and work hard. There's nothing more disheartening than actually if an opportunity presents itself and you see something that goes wrong and you want to complain about it, but you never put yourself in a position to do something about it. So that's how I got into it. And I started doing a whole bunch of read ahead on all the information I could get off the website that you maintain. And the city had a lot of content. So I got myself pretty smart, pretty fast. And 2 days before it was over. I actually went in there and did what was necessary to become a candidate, and the rest of it is campaign history at this point.
So you said you've been studying and reading up, and thank you for doing that. We do have a lot of information on the website for master plans and all of that kind of stuff that a lot of your average residents wouldn't read. So what is your overall kind of platform and issues that you want to see addressed, or that you want to kind of work on as a council member if you get elected?
Sure. So some of the things is that I always believe that, first of all, as coming from leadership myself, one of the worst things that any person that's relieving a leader that's currently in the position is to talk about how you can do things better than the person that's already doing. So you won't hear that from me. But what you will hear is that I'm a person that will really sit down and think strategically about what the problems are that we face. I know as I was out there in my first days, people would ask me what my top 3 priorities are. But after reading all the content that I've seen out there, I didn't just narrow them down to 1 or 2 things. I know people wanted to hear drainage, they wanted to hear roads, but I didn't go there because I understand. So when you actually looking at a problem, there's 2 ways to look at a problem. You're going to have symptoms, but symptoms, they're annoying, but they're not necessarily the nucleus of the problem. Our problems that we have here in League City is that we are a rapidly growing city, right? And we have to think strategically about how are we going to get to our end state. So, and all these other things that people was bringing up to me, I would write it down. Is this the problem or is this a symptom? So what I seen was a whole, I think that the drainage, it's a symptom. I think that the roads, it's a symptom. So all of these, I think some of the other infrastructure, whether we're going to be able to scale our police department, our fire department, and our admin department, how are we going to get this to handle the growth of the city? These are symptoms to the larger problems. So the larger problems is that we have to first accept that we are growing, and then we have to sit down and get realistic and be strategic about how are we going to grow? How are we going to be able to scale the city? The worst thing that can happen is that if this city is growing and we wait to 5-10 years down the road to acknowledge that growth, and when we acknowledge that growth, we say to ourselves, now we need to go to the taxpayers and ask them for all this money to fund this new city, this new city structure. I believe we have to do that in a much more pragmatic way. We have to do that where, in a 2-year plan, 4-year plan, 6-year plan. So if there is some new tax dollars that have to be spent, that we're able to do that in pieces and rather trying to shove down the whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So you kind of already addressed this, but if you want to elaborate a little more, what is the experience you have that you believe makes you qualified to serve on council?
Sure. So for the last 15 years, I've been in leadership roles. I've actually sat down and I'm responsible for making sure that we have a budget and we stay within the budget. So just case in point, so as a chief recruiter for recruiting for the state of Texas and Louisiana, you have a lot of things. There's a lot of buildings involved. There's a lot of bills involved. There's a lot of vehicles involved, and there's a lot of personnel that's involved. And you don't necessarily get to choose who you're going to lead, right, in terms of diversity, where they come from. So my strength is that I know how to bring people together from all over the spectrum, whether regardless of your race, age, what your ideology is, what your belief is. I understand that the mission is too important for League City for us to work in a manner that we're willing to, leave anybody out of the discussions. Because this is not really about, whether it's blue or red or black or white. It's not about that. It's about a city that has to scale to meet the needs of the people that want to call League City home. So you'll see me constantly. All my conversation is going to be about not I, but us. But how are we going to solve this problem? So for all the citizens out there, if I have a problem and it's 10,000 feet and it's big, I'm so humble that I would actually come to you, Sarah, and say, hey, Sarah, in the communication space, I don't have the answers to this. I would like to sit down with you and bang heads so that we can come up with the best way approach. So I left my ego at home. I had it stomped on so many times that I know that the best way to solve our problems is making sure that we get everybody in the conversation, and then don't really care, as Ronald Reagan would say, I really don't care who gets the credit as long as America and League City win.
Alrighty. So I kind of talked about this as well, but what are our strengths as a city and the challenges that you think need to be addressed? And you talked obviously about growth and infrastructure, but let's do the positive. What are our strengths?
Our strength is that just over the few weeks, we have some phenomenal people that live here. We have some people that really, really care about League City. I mean, we have people from all over the spectrum, and sometimes I do get into some heated debates in some of the different chat rooms, but but I hope that I've never ever disrespected anyone. So League City has a phenomenal character, and our integrity is intact. And I've met the majority of the department heads, and the people that I have met that's running these departments, especially the city manager, the mayor, both of the assistant city managers. So I had some really deep discussions about these people. I would tell you that, I can really tell if someone is not genuine in their conversation. But the folks that I have talked to in this city, they are really concerned about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. One of the biggest issues that we have when city government, the most exposure is our police department, right? So when I'm looking at our police department, talking to chief over there and just stopping on the streets, talking to some of the officers sitting inside the street, conversation, we have some really, really talented people out there, and they care about this city. So that's a strength. That is a super strength that we have. We have people that's willing to put in the work to make this place better.
And then challenges, again, the rapid growth, the infrastructure.
Yes. Our challenges is that we are growing, right?
No matter what you like.
No matter what happened. There's some people that's been here alongside since this city was chartered in 1962, and they can remember a small 6,000, 10,000. They can remember that. And what we have to do as a citizen, especially as your next council, what I'm going to make sure is that as we grow and do this, I'm going to make sure that all of those concerns and all of those people do not get left out of the discussions.
So talking still about the future growth of the city, and every time I say this, I would say the majority of folks in League City do not realize that 45% of our city has yet to be developed.
Yes.
It's empty land. 45%. State rules, we can't stop development. It's going to happen no matter what, because we hear a lot of, well, just don't do anything. Just leave it alone, which we can't do that. We're expecting our population to double. We're sitting at 112 right now, 112,000. Probably going to be double that in the next 20 to 30 years. What do you want to see happen with future growth in our city?
I think one of the reasons that I moved here, and this is probably a personal thing for me and my family, I moved here because I like the small town suburban feel. I really like that. And I like the proximity to the city. I like being able to get to the city if I need to get to the city, but when I get home, I kind of enjoy the
That's what everyone says that lives here that I've talked to. Between Houston and Galveston, and it's a small town feel.
It's a small town feel. Then I like, being that I'm a sailor, right?
Yeah.
I need to see the water. So I like if I don't get in the water, I just need to know that the water is close by. So those are some now that makes this area very, very attractive. So with this area being very, very attractive, our challenges is, are we willing to meet the needs that people are attracted to this area? We can't do anything about that. So there's businesses going to come here. If you ride around this city, just living on over on 646, every space that's currently a green space undeveloped, there's a for sale sign all the way down to 147. It's this place is going to grow. So I just think that we have to we can do some things for zoning to kind of control like what's going to go here, what's going to go there. But to your point, and I heard the mayor say it the other day, we got about 47% of this of League City that's undeveloped, and a large majority of that is on the southwest side of over there. Yeah. So you just can expect, and I was looking at when you bring in a major highway, what comes with that? A lot of traffic comes with it, and you're going to have a lot of people getting off those exits. Either that creates gas stations, multi-structures, or more homes. So we just have to be ready. I'm really concerned as a city council person, as a member, like, do we have real strategic plans across all of our departments to scale to meet the needs of the people as they get here? I believe we got to be very proactive in that.
So when we talk about growth, what are your thoughts on the growth and evolution of the city's park, as well as the library services and facilities as we grow? So let's start first with parks.
Parks. I enjoy the parks. I love all the parks, and I certainly like seeing all the kids out there. Over in 96, it's football season right now, so I enjoy riding by there, see everybody that's under 3 feet tall, playing football. So I think that the parks is a beautiful thing, because I lived in cities that don't have parks. And until something is gone, you won't know how much you miss it. So, and now when I was reading the history of this city, one of the big ideas of the founders of this city is they wanted to make sure that a couple things exist here. Church is a place to worship and a place to have fun. So kind of the motto of the city it should be a fun place where people can live out their days and have fun. So I think that we want to make sure that we continue to honor the idea of the city. I'm all for parks. Yes.
And let's shift over to library services, facilities and services. What do you think we need as we grow as a city as it relates to that?
Well, I kind of been studying some libraries and what does the library look like as we get deeper and deeper into the 21st century. I believe that libraries are changing what they look like because most of the books that we used to go to and grab a card catalog and check it out.
Card catalog, I haven't heard that in a long time.
So that's kind of that's not so much of the norm anymore.
Yeah.
You can walk around literally with an iPad and have probably 100 or so books on right in your hand.
Yeah.
So as we go forward, I just think that we need to really look and see, are we going to be able to is a library that our current structure, which is a very beautiful facility, what should it be going forward? Should it be more of a coffee cafe style, internet services and things of that nature? So I think we really owe ourselves a real study of what our library should look like in the future. One of the big topics of discussion is there a need for a library on the west side, right? I say there's a lot of people over there, and as the city grow, it can very well be a hassle to get over here to our main library. And then the more people that we put in this city, imagine we would either have to increase the workforce, increase the size. And let's say if we have 175,000 people, and of that, if 10% start making a lot of use of the library, that's going to give you 75,000 people trying to get through that one facility. Right. So we have to think about that. But in doing so, I think as the mayor and the council, I don't think that we should do that. We should do that ourselves. I think we should put that before the voters and allow the voters to make that decision, whether the time is right and when we should do it.
To have that on the west side. Okay. Last question before we get into rapid fire. Right. I know you've gotten through these pretty quickly. So let's talk about COVID, the impact of COVID on the city, and how do we move forward as a community to coexist with COVID, because it's not going away.
Right. For myself, I would say to the citizens of League City, what I would always encourage, and I'm sure that the mayor and the council and our department heads, is that we don't necessarily want to take away from the language that we're getting from the state and the language that we're getting out of the federal government. We don't want to undermine what's being put out there. So we want to make sure that we stay in compliance. The way that most rules work, you can add to, but you cannot take away from them. That's how you do good business, good leadership business. So we don't want to take away from it. What we're going to have is that I think for a long time we'll be wearing masks and we'll be whether you're supposed to wear a mask or it will always be questionable. So, but I still think individuals should be responsible for themselves. I think you should govern yourself accordingly, because when you do get sick, and if you do get sick, obviously you're going to need all of the medical services, hospitals, and all of that. All of that has to happen. So as we go forward, I think that we just need to be responsible, exercise a lot of personal responsibility for ourselves and our families, and we're going to have to exist. Most medical people with professions would say that if there is a virus of any kind, when the weather cools off, that virus has the ability to hang around a little bit longer. So I think that our real test would be as we move into the cooler months, what we would see how we're responding, because we kind of caught COVID when we was headed into our summer months. So now that it's kind of cooling off, we'll see how that affects. So before us here in League City, because the businesses is normally what suffer. Our business community really suffers when things of this nature. I think we should make sure that we're promoting and shopping locally, making sure that we spend as much dollar as possible. Most of the folks here, we live here, but they work other places. So for us, just making sure that we do everything to support them, and then we have to listen to them. If they're willing to take some risk, open and everything, we should be able to at least, come to a compromise so that they can continue to take care of their families. But more importantly, especially in our restaurant industry, our service industry, we have a lot of folks that's their job. They're making $9-10 an hour. That's how they provide for their family. Well, every day I think about that, and we keep them in mind. So let's just really spend some money with these people. Let's shop, and then at the same time, let's use all of our communication stream to get the message out that we need to be, doing everything that we can to help them survive during this time. And then also, additionally, we need to partner with the Chamber of Commerce and make sure that, our Chamber's members, create a segue for individuals who don't have the time to sit down and apply for this assistance that can come out of the state and the federal government, that we have a good partnership that they can actually go sit down and have some liaisons to help them, get some relief during these tough times.
Awesome. So we have finished up, and now it is our last 5 minutes that we get to do these. So it's totally up to you how many we go through. So we're going to have you reach in there, and you can read it as well.
Jeez, all right.
I know, right? No pressure.
The big one. All right. what are your thoughts on the recent Black Lives Matters march that occurred locally in League City? Well, I wasn't here.
You weren't?
No, I was not here when the Black Lives when that happened. But I do have some. So that happened in June of 2020, from what I can read. I wasn't in town, but however, I do understand, and I see what I see in the contents that's available across Friendswood, League City, and all. It was a very professionally ran thing. So people was very respectful for our League City Police Department. I think our goal, and I feel comfortable saying this because I talked to Chief. I believe that Chief Gold has a good goal in making sure that every human being get treated with the same level of respect as we are here delivering police services. So that's and inside of that, there's a gazillion questions, a gazillion codes that we can pursue. But our goal is that our police department is a professional group of men and women, and I think that if they pull you over in a traffic stop or any interaction with our police department, that you're going to meet a group of professionals that will not do anything to rip you of your dignity while doing police services. But now the public also has a side that they have to do, right? The public also has to understand that when you're interacting with the police officers, that in the police department, police don't necessarily when they pull you over, there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. That really don't exist.
Not anymore.
It can literally go from somebody with a busted tail light to an all-out gunfight. It could be that. So when the police officers pull you over, if they're in their position, they're always trained to expect the absolute worst and to respond to it. So, but you can best believe that what Chief Ratliff and his team over there is doing is top-notch police services.
All righty, next question.
Oh, man.
I know you're doing good so far. Got a couple minutes left. You might get through 3 or 4. Let's see.
If elected, would you introduce or support a motion to redirect funding from the police? My answer
Oh my gosh, you kind of already.
Yeah, so the answer to that is absolute no. In the United States of America, not just here in League City, but across this country, we have a mental health problems. We don't get at our mental health problems trying to defund the police department. My whole thought process is that we need to be skilling our police department to meet the future. Discuss a traffic mobility related project that is currently part of the city's capital improvement plan. One of the big ones that I've been paying attention to is the Walker Street extension over to 270. The reason I think that that's very important, and it's not scheduled to get underway construction-wise to 2024. It's a big project, and I think it's going to do a lot to help relieve some of the congestion off of Main Street.
Takes time. Everybody wants something done tomorrow, right?
Yes. What political party affiliated are you with?
You're getting all the good ones.
Oh man! So the political party. I've been at this a long time. So historically, I have voted for GOP and Democrats across the board. When I got to League City, that was the first time I ever seen a straight ticket.
Yeah,
that was the
which
first
you can't
time.
do anymore. But
this time, I was happy to not see a straight ticket because there are some folks that I wanted to vote for on both sides of the conversation because I like their messaging. So for that reason is that for me now, and in this position is I'm gonna approach this in a non-political way. I'm gonna make sure that whether you're red or blue or independent or just an indifferent person, I'm gonna make sure I put the most amount of work and make sure that we do the most amount of good.
All right, how much time you got left, Nora? 2 minutes. Okay, I think you have time for 2 more questions.
If elected, how will you ensure that donors in any donation to your campaign do not sway your influence? I had a few donations from some really good citizens here in the city. Some of them I have never met them in person, but I have talked to them on on social media channels. The goal is that I came from an organization where I know that my influence, I'm not necessarily doing this job for myself. I have no personal agenda. I am doing this for the people of League City. So every time I sit down and have a discussion, if I have to take a picture of a whole bunch of people and put it in my pocket, I'm going to make sure I'm laboring on their behalf. How can the city and the city council support the revitalization of the historic district? We could do this more so by making sure that we are applying for the grants. A lot of grants through the National Park Service, historical and preservation grants. We just got to get at that and try to make sure that we don't try to fund that through tax dollars.
Through general dollars, general fund dollars.
I might get one more.
You might get one more. I know you're blowing through them now. All right, last one.
Are the capital improvement projects that you believe in? Well, I'd answer that. This is are there any capital improvement projects that you believe should be the citizens directly to vote? Again, I talked
about the library. Library as well. Do you want to do one more? Okay, one more.
This is the last
and then
one.
I'm going to let you close it up.
as League City continues to grow, how do we make sure that the future development, we talked about
We
this.
talked about that one. Well, so then you got 1 minute left, so you just tell voters what you want them to tell, kind of your closing remarks, and
Sure.
we'll get you in for a whole half hour then.
Again, my name is Fred Rogers. I'm running for position 5 here on the City Council for League City. I am a person that's going to always prioritize our priorities. Our city has lots going on. We're in a great location. A lot of people want to live here. So sometimes we have the appetite to want to take care of the things that we want before we necessarily take care of the things that we need. My approach is going to always make sure that in any discussion that I'm in, I'm going to always weigh the needs versus want. There's a lot of beautiful things that we can have here, but I want to make sure that we stay on track, that our projects in FY21, there's 10 projects supposed to get underway for construction to make sure that we keep this drainage issue. So I'm going to be steep into the problems and being physically responsible. I will not just commit tax dollars to frivolous things. I want to make sure that we can live here. It already costs a lot of money to be a League City citizen. So we want to make sure that we don't pass no more new tax burdens on to the taxpayers. You can trust and believe that I'm my own man. I walk my own walk. I bring my own conversations, but I know how to work with people and bring people together. I would greatly, greatly appreciate your vote and your support. You can come out to the polls. November 3rd is going to be a big day, but you don't have to wait. It's 7 to 7, like right now, to Friday.
Until Friday,
I'm headed
it's
back over
7
to the
to
polls.
7.
Fred Rogers for League City Council. Please give us a vote. May God bless you all. Thank you and have a great League City day.
Thank you, Fred, so much for joining us today. Important point, but guys, early voting is available 7 to 7 till Friday, the 30th. And then, of course, on Tuesday, November 3rd. But let's get out, because the great thing about voting early, you can vote anywhere. You don't have to go to the poll that you're assigned to.
Sure.
So record numbers right now for early voting.
Yes,
we want those record numbers. So thanks again
Absolutely.
for joining me today. And thank you, League City, for tuning in. And as always, keep safe, keep wearing those masks, keep socially distancing from one another, and we'll get through this together.
All right, God bless y'all. Thank you.